Good morning! Welcome to Morning Brew.
I'm Kiki.
I'm Lake. And today we are talking to you about our crazy neighbors. Because
there's been a lot.
Yep, there sure has.
Right. So I'm not going to go all the way back to childhood.
Okay.
And forward, through the Air Force Base and all like that. It's just too much. So I figured that I would just do it since your dad and I were homeowners.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right. So,
it all began.
Right. When we bought our first home in a little town in Pennsylvania, Portland, Pennsylvania, we had great neighbors there.
Yep.
We had great neighbors. They lived across the street. My friend across the street and I, we were pregnant at the same time. Like, our boys are only a couple days apart.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
It only got crazy when new people moved next door to me. It was crazy. And, my kids would run over and be like, hi, and they'd slam the door in their face. I'm not home, go get your mom.
Those people were your parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's who moved in next door. Is
my mom and dad moved in next door.
They used to pretend they were not home.
Well, not Nani.
Not Nani, but Poppy did.
Yeah, my dad.
Go away, I'm not home. We see the TV on. We just want to come in and talk to Nani. She gives us treats.
Yeah, so anyway, that was short-lived. And we didn't move because my parents moved next door. It was short-lived.
An upgrade.
Right. So then we moved to another small little town in Pennsylvania, and Readers, Pennsylvania.
Like my childhood home.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, first off, it was a nice neighborhood, you know. We had neighbors that moved in onto the side of us.
Yeah.
Every time we had a party, we had an outdoor party, this guy would mow his lawn.
Yep, hop right on that mower, and he would start off right at the line, right at the property line, down and back. Dust is going, grass is going, he didn't care.
He had headlights, as most people do, on their lawnmower, but people normally don't use the headlights. He did. If we were out there at night, here he came. It didn't matter. But that wasn't the weird thing.
No.
The weird thing about it was they were into
smiley faces.
Smiley faces.
So much so that they had a yellow punch buggy with smiley faces on the side. A smiley face, like stuffed.
2 smiley face dolls riding in the back, like these big, giant yellow smiley faces. They had the wind-up thing on the back.
And they had a big wind-up toy key-looking thing on the back of their punch buggy.
So you're like, okay, they like smiley face, like that's their little car theme. It's cute.
Yeah.
That's probably as far as it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. They had a wedding.
Yeah. Wasn't the wedding in their yard?
Yeah, with the balloon arch of
smiley
faces. They had a smiley face wedding.
Yeah.
Their wedding rings.
Smiley faces.
Smiley faces.
Yeah. That was weird. That was weird.
We had them, smiley faces.
Yep.
Then, one time, we are sitting in our house, minding our own business, as we usually do, and there are all kinds of emergency vehicles. Okay? The emergency vehicles
flying down the street.
Flying down our very small street.
Yep.
We can't imagine what the heck could have happened. What happened, Lincoln?
Well, a lady let her dog out.
Normal.
Like any old afternoon. And a bear came up out of the woods. And instead of cutting her losses, letting the dog go, the bear is going to attack it. No, she got involved. She went down and got in a bear fight.
Yeah. She decided she was going to go toe-to-toe with the bear coming after her dogs.
Yeah.
That's why all the emergency vehicles showed up. Away they shipped her, clawed up, butt out of there. So we had the bear fighter.
She didn't even save the dog. I don't think she ever saved the dog.
I don't think that she did either. We'd have to...
Yeah.
I don't know.
So that...
And then what was weird about that is that why didn't the guy from across the way come over and save them? Because he was making weapons.
Yeah.
In his garage.
Yeah. Yeah, he was.
He was making weapons in his garage.
Odd. We always knew they were like, those neighbors are odd.
Yeah, they're not right.
Like, to themselves.
Yeah.
It's so odd. No, yeah.
I don't know if he was like a soldier of fortune or like what he was, but he was making
weapons
in his garage. Then we had very good friends, okay?
Yes, still very good friends.
Again, a whole nother show for another day, bullying and what it was like growing up for my children in that particular place.
Yeah.
But parents like to get involved.
Yeah.
Okay?
They sure do.
So there was this girl that was harassing other girls from our street consistently on the bus, carrying on and on and on. So...
And, because this girl lived in the street over.
Right.
So, like, we were on the bus, and we would get off first, and then the very next stop, they would get off.
Right. So, there was a lot going on.
Yep.
So, the one girl is now going to handle the situation with this girl.
Yep.
Okay, so she's like, you want to fight? Come on over. We're going to have a fight.
Yep.
Okay? Not that I condone that. But, well... whatever. We'll talk about that too later. So
another day.
So the girl's mother drives her to the house with the intention of her daughter getting in a fight.
Yep, they're gonna fight.
So when the mother drops off the daughter to fight, the older sister joins the younger sister, and the mother is like, well, I'm going to fight too.
Yeah, we're all going to get out and fight.
So, the two sisters were fighting. One was fighting the girl. The other was fighting the mother. And the two sisters beat both of those.
All their
butts. All of them. So, we had that. We had that. So, I mean, it was a pretty crazy neighborhood. And when you think things couldn't really get any crazier... They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Yep. Okay.
And we'll be right back with that.
Stay tuned for part 2.
We're back for part 2.
Yes, we are.
So we were talking about living in Readers, Pennsylvania with our smiley face, the bear fight, the weapon maker, the mother-daughter beat down. Things got crazy. And something else crazy really crazy happened. So much so that there is a 48 hours television show about what happened where we lived.
Yeah.
So every morning there would be a man that would be jogging through our neighborhood. I spent a lot of time outside. I would see him. Hi, how are you? I'm good. How are you? He ends up being the minister of the church down the road where my kids would go to vacation Bible school. Free babysitting. Vacation Bible school, and whatnot. So he would jog through our neighborhood consistently. Like I said, it would small talk. How are you? Blah, 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 blee, blee, blee.
Yeah.
Well, this guy ends up being what they have nicknamed the Sinister Minister.
Yep.
This man was driving down the road. He called the police and he said he was driving down the road and a deer jumped out in front of him, which is not unusual, in the woods of Pennsylvania, the Pocono Mountains. And he hit the guardrail and his wife was very, very injured. So they show up. They take the wife to the hospital. She's in very bad shape. Very, very bad shape. Yeah. They put her on life support. They say she's not going to make it. And they pull the plug
Yeah.
and she dies.
Yeah.
He instantly has her cremated.
Yep.
And it's time to move on with
With
life. 3 months later, at that very church, the woman went into the church and found a man had committed suicide sitting at the minister's desk. Now, this is the minister that was jogging back and forth through my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay. This man had taken a single bullet to his head and killed himself sitting behind the desk, the very desk that he built for the minister. Okay? So now it's going to be time for them to have the funeral for the minister. So the sister shows up to Readers, Pennsylvania, a couple days before the memorial service. Actually, I think it was the day before the memorial service. And they had a 16-year-old daughter, I believe a son. Anyway, the sister's like, hey, you know, what's going on here? Like, why isn't anybody here? Because her brother, you know, was a wonderful person, and, you know, they had a lot of friends and whatnot. And it just seemed really strange to her that nobody was there to support the wife.
Yeah.
So she had to be like, well, this isn't the way, you know, that I wanted to tell you, but there's a lot going on, and it's time for you to know. I'm in love with someone else. I'm in love with the minister of our church.
Yeah.
In love with the minister. Well, were you having, you know, an affair? You know, well, it was emotional.
Yep.
It was an emotional
This gets crazy.
affair. Okay, now back up. The daughter, okay, months before, had found the phone and found messages between the minister that jogged around my house, they called him AB, the minister, to her mom.
Yeah.
They were inappropriate. They were love texts. And as the daughter said, they weren't about the love of Jesus. They were okay. So she knew what was going on. She didn't want to tell her dad because he was at the moment going through alcoholism, getting counseling at the church, getting counseling for the alcohol problem. So the daughter sends an anonymous email. I know what you're doing. You need to stop, you know, A to Z. They find out that the daughter is the one that sent the email. So the minister and the mom bring the daughter in. They're like, this isn't what's going on at all. We don't want you talking about, they basically threatened her without threatening her type of thing.
Yeah.
So she keeps quiet. Okay, so apparently, right before he died, the wife tells him she's in love with someone else. Okay, which is the minister jogging around my neighborhood. So she takes the kids and leaves. And she tells the kids, you're not, to talk to your father, none of this. He's trying to call them. They're not answering. Long story short, he heads to the church and commits suicide at the reverend's desk. And the daughter feels a lot of guilt because she didn't answer the phone because she was doing what her mother told her, and there was a message from her father telling her how much he loved her and everything else before he killed himself. So the sister-in-law now is, what the heck? Her name is Rose Cobb. She decides that she's going to start, who is this guy? Tell me about him. Well, he was married before, and his wife just died in a car accident 3 months ago. And this poor man, he was married before that, and that wife died. She fell down the stairs. He has 2 daughters from her.
Mm-hmm.
Blah, 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 blee, blee, blee. Rose is like, something's not right. Rose got the street smarts. Something's not right here. So Rose contacts the Pocono police. They start investigating. They're taking what Rose is saying seriously. Now they, are really looking into the investigation of the car accident. Now they're realizing, okay, why wasn't she wearing the seatbelt? Because the wife's sister says she always wore the seatbelt. The Reverend says she was into this thing lately where she'd get in the car and go, how far can we get down down the road before the bell starts ringing for the seatbelt? And then she would put it on. Okay, this is what he came up. But then he said to somebody else, well, she was uncomfortable and that's why she didn't have one. So now 2 stories just over a seatbelt. So they start getting very suspicious. Then they realize that her seat was blood soaked behind her. Okay, the wounds that she got were like on the top of her head. The airbags didn't go off. All of this. So now the suspicion is there.
Not right.
Right. So long story short, okay, they do this whole investigation. They arrest him. He goes to trial. He is convicted of murdering. He set up the murder.
Yep.
He bludgeoned the second wife to death in the house, drug her to the car, drove down the road, faked an accident, and that's how he was trying to get away with it. When they caught on, because they went into the garage and they did like a black light for a blood search, it showed that the blood came like from the garage to the car and then like stopped, type of thing. So they could prove that she wasn't killed in the car. When they asked him about the blood, he said, oh, that blood's in there because we were moving wood and the wood fell on her, so that's why. But then when they went and examined the wood pile, the newspapers that were under the wood were dated at a date that were after she had passed away. So
liar.
Right. So he is convicted of murder.
Yeah.
The Reverend that used to run around my house bludgeoned his wife to death and then carried on an affair with this woman whose husband then killed himself. Stay tuned.
Part 3 coming up.
Part 3. Okay. So we're continuing on with the story of one of our crazy neighbors, A.B. Shermer, who was the Reverend of the United Methodist Church in Readers, Pennsylvania. So we have now found out that he was arrested and tried and convicted of the murder of his second wife, Betty. I also left out that after the husband that had killed himself with the suicide, the Reverend moved into their house. He moved into Cindy's house, and then which really alerted the daughter, and then and the daughter had left. She was off but then the mother had called and she was like, guess what, I have great news, AB and I are engaged. And the daughter was like, no, and she called the police, this is not a good idea, blah blah blah. And then shortly after that is when he got arrested and then he was put to jail. So he has been tried and convicted, but Rose wasn't happy with it. Neither were the police. So the police started investigating the murder, the death, I've given it away, of the first wife. They changed it from unknown cause of death to homicide.
Yeah.
And they found out that the Reverend, the fine Reverend that jogged around my house. How are you?
Yeah.
Great. How are you today? Terrific. It's beautiful out. Yeah. Yeah, he killed her too.
Yeah.
He pushed her down the stairs and murdered his first wife as well.
So
Sinister Minister. You can look him
really
up.
Is.
Yep, on a episode of 48 Hours. It's called Death at the Parsonage. And that would have been where we lived.
Yep.
So that was they were our crazy neighbors in the small town of Readers, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Yes, they were. Then where did we move? Because we lived in Readers, and then we moved away, and then we moved back to Readers.
Yep.
So when we moved away, where did we move to?
Berlin, New Hampshire.
Berlin, New Hampshire. Wonderful, wonderful town. Really no crazy neighbors. Very small town. I taught school there. Wonderful place.
Mm-hmm.
There weren't crazy neighbors, but there were a couple characters.
Yeah, characters.
Characters out on the streets.
Yep.
One being Orange Juice.
Orange Juice Man.
Go ahead.
He used to walk around the streets, and then if you were like walking past him, he'd be like, "Oh, don't tip me over. Oh, I'm gonna tip over. I'm gonna spill out. That can't happen to me." And he used to do this all the time.
He was orange juice.
He thought that he was a glass of orange juice, and if you came too close, he would freak out, thinking he was gonna spill over and die.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there was your favorite.
Boombox guy. This guy. No music. No music. He would just dance.
He had the headphones.
Yeah.
And they had the cord.
Yeah, not plugged into anything. I mean, this is no Bluetooth days, okay? Like, this is like you had to plug the headphones in to listen to the music.
You had to have the 6D batteries in the boombox.
Or even the Walkman still. Like, literally, no. Yeah. He had nothing. He had the headphones connected to nothing, and he would dance and dance and dance.
Yeah.
All over the town.
Yeah, boombox. He was making his own music in his own head. But that was it. I mean, that was a great place to live. Highly recommend. It was a really nice place.
Yep.
So then we had moved back to Readers.
Yep.
And then
things happened.
There were circumstances, and then we moved to
North Carolina.
In a little town called Sneed's Ferry, North Carolina.
Yeah.
And once again,
crazy neighbors.
Do you know how you know a neighborhood isn't probably the best place for you to be?
How? Why?
When there's more adults riding bicycles than children. Right?
Oh, yeah.
When there's more adults riding bicycles than children.
Yep.
That's a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
You're not in a great place. But in all fairness, we took our house sight unseen.
Yep.
We rolled into town in the middle of the night into this tiny house that still had the house up in Pennsylvania. But that's the way North Carolina is. Yeah. You could have $1 million house, $400,000 house, trailer, $80,000 house, another $1 million.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. Like there wasn't. I mean, maybe there were a couple affluent neighborhoods, but it's definitely nothing like New England or anything like that. People are very mixed in together, which is fine.
Yeah.
But you don't know what you're going to get.
You don't know what this neighbor is and what that neighbor is. Or what that neighbor is.
You don't really know what you're going to get. So we moved in, and right off the bat, across the street, we had Toofy.
Toofy. Oh my gosh.
Toofy had pets. What were his pets, Sleekin?
Well, his pets were chickens.
Chickens.
Did he have a dog?
Yep.
Cat.
Yes.
Turkey.
And a duck. The turkey
used to leave his house, walk across the street, be in our yard, and then he would chase us.
Yes.
When we would try to go into the car.
Yes.
So much so to the point that I jumped through the car window to get into the car.
Like Superman. She dove. The turkey was at a high speed chase.
Yeah, running around.
I had my little dust mop. Get. Because you had to do that.
Yeah.
You had to literally, when you came out, we were looking.
You had to look. See.
Are there any of the fowl here? Or any, or any of the, what do you call it? What do you call it?
Game.
Poultry. Any of the poultry. And they had it out for us.
Yeah, they hated us. That turkey hated me. And then Thanksgiving came and went.
But the turkey was still there.
Yep.
Still chasing us down the road. I mean, sometimes we would get in the car and I'd back up. I didn't. Let me tell you, I didn't care what I was running over. I didn't care what I was running over. I was terrified every day.
Yeah, it was
Lakin more so because she has a fear of birds.
I'm definitely afraid of birds.
But sometimes the turkey would be chasing us down the road. It was really
all of them would just.
Yeah. So that was Toofy. And then he
Toofy.
sorry about that. And we're like, okay, thanks,
Yeah,
Toof.
thanks. I just jumped into the freaking car.
So the great thing about when we lived there, because there was a menagerie of people there, my husband did not live in North Carolina. He would come down and spend time and then go back for reasons with his job. But we didn't want people just to think, hey, like, there's this lady with these 2 kids, like, living in North Carolina. You know, there was riffraff in the neighborhood. So when Toofy had said to us, well, what does your husband do? I said, he works for the government. And I left it at that.
Yep.
That transferred into our house, which we joked around and called it the crack shack, and all of our friends would laugh and call it the crack shack.
Yeah.
But that transferred to all of our neighbors as we were the
FBI house.
The FBI house. They took me saying my husband worked for the government as that he worked for the FBI. And I'll tell you some really strange things that happened, why I feel they named our house the FBI house.
Okay.
Next.
So, we're back. But we made the decision.
Yeah, we had a little conference.
Yeah, we just had a little conference. We made the decision that we're going to come back.
Like next week.
With the crazy neighbor stuff, because we already did 3 parts and we're not even halfway.
We had to finish North Carolina and then move on to where we moved moved next, and it's a lot of information, so instead of having all of these parts, we're gonna save then the rest for our next week. And we'll finish today by it's gonna be Easter weekend.
And so we have the girls' last day of school was today, so tomorrow is their spring break. Rory's birthday is on Saturday. Then Easter's Sunday. Spring break is the rest of the week. So we're looking forward to hopefully good weather, to do some fun things with the kids.
Right.
Have a good Easter.
Yes, for sure. So that's what we're gonna be moving on to this weekend is festivities.
Yeah, the fun festivities.
Yes, festivities. And so we'll get back to you on that. Before we leave today, I don't know if she's watching, but my granddaughter shares a birthday with my very best friend. So we want to say happy birthday, Dawn. Okay, we love her so much. And I think that's all for today. We hope that you enjoy listening a little bit about our stories and our crazy life. Don't forget to
like, follow, subscribe on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all of the things. Continue to share with your friends and family. Make sure you watch your views, you repost it, share it to your story, all of that fun stuff.
Right.
But yeah, so
that's all.
That's it.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
See you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.